I was saying y'all about Rico from Street Scores, and Jeremy Fowler just came out and tweeted, sources, the Commanders are expected to release cornerback William Jackson III if there's no trade partner by the deadline. Teams have called on Jackson, but no trade is materialized, and the back injury was also believed to be a factor. Jackson signed a $40.5 million deal in 2021. When I first saw this, I was like, okay, trade deadline's November 1st. Maybe we have some time. Looked at my phone. It's November 1st. Like, what we doing? So we have till 4 p.m. to decide whether or not we're going to trade them, cut them, or whatever. And so the clock is ticking, man. It's 11:30 a.m. right now as I'm recording this. I'm very curious as to what's going to happen today. But, of course, we got to talk about, was William Jackson really the problem? I mean, it may not be such a coincidence that since he was benched with his back issue that the Commanders defense has played better, or is it just a strong coincidence? We're gonna dive into that. We're gonna dive into his contract situation. If we release him, why is that such a terrible idea? How much money do we actually even save? Also, with William Jackson gone, even though again he hasn't been playing, our cornerback depth is non-existent right now. On the last play versus the Colts, we had 3 corners and 4 safeties. That's how bad our corner depth is right now. And we can also take a look at some possible replacements in the draft, because I'm not too sure if Kendall Fuller is safe as well. Right now, don't fix what's not broken. Kendall Fuller, Benjamin St-Juste, and Rashad Wildgoose, even though they have given up a lot of plays that haven't been punished. We'll see in this Vikings and the Eagles game after that if they're going to be able to take advantage of some of the coverage mistakes they've made. But as of right now, it's working. But who knows what happens by the end of the season? Is Kendall Fuller even safe? Which takes me to the point that I'm pretty sure we're going to be drafting a corner quite high in this draft, maybe even the first round. So we're going to take a look at some of the potential cornerback prospects in the upcoming draft as well. But before we dive in all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately, and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you pull up every Sunday for the play-by-play live breakdown of all of the Commanders game this regular season. Again, I'm gonna speak it into existence the postseason as well. I'm sorry I wasn't able to stream this past Sunday, but I got y'all this upcoming Sunday against the Vikings. We should be wearing all black in that game as well again, so really excited about streaming for that, man. And without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so again, the Commanders are expected to release cornerback William Jackson III if there's no trade partner by the deadline. And first of all, how did we get here? There were reports days ago about how, like, the Commanders didn't plan on trading them, and they were being stubborn, and they were like, the trade offers that are currently there weren't good enough, and things like that. How do we go from that to he's not going to be traded at all? Like, what just happened? Now, John Com has a good point. At one point, injured reserve was even a possibility if there was no trade, but then the bulging disc in his back was improved, so now they can't do that. That would be cheating the system. I'm pretty sure there would be some crazy consequences for that. So right now, of course, like I've been saying, his back injury is nowhere near as bad as the team has been making it out to be, with him not even traveling with the team to games. Because if it were that bad, they could put him on IR to save a roster spot. They're trying to open up a roster spot right now. That's the whole reason for all of this mess. Otherwise, you would just let William Jackson just sit there since you can't get a trade and just be stubborn like, oh, y'all don't want to give us a good trade? Fine, nobody has them. But they're trying to create a roster spot to put that towards maybe O-line, maybe defensive line, or another corner specifically. But they can no longer place him on IR because his back injury has actually improved enough to where that would be against the rules. So this is just a really interesting situation. Like, how did we get here? We went from, oh, okay, the Commanders are standing their ground. They're not just going to trade him for pennies type of thing. Maybe they're getting lowballed. And then now we're just going to release him. That's even worse than trading him for a 7th round pick. At least if you trade him, another team could take some of the cap space, some of the cap hit that we're giving them if we negotiated in the trade and things like that. Releasing them is literally worst case scenario for our cap space, for roster moves, all of that type of stuff. I hate the idea of releasing them. And it's just crazy too, because when we signed them and we drafted Benjamin Benjamin St-Juste, I was like, okay, so we're doing everything we can to actually for real transition to a man cover defense. And I guess Jack Del Rio figured out that we're not good in man coverage, so this is just not going to work. So Benjamin St-Juste is adjusted by just being better in zone. And then we still run quite a bit of man. A lot of Benjamin St-Juste's best plays have been in man. Rashad Wildgoose's, some of his best plays have been in man, like that Packers game where he had that really good pass breakup when he was just on a complete island one-on-one. So even though we still run quite a bit of man, we also run a lot of zone, and William Jackson has struggled mightily in zone. Now, before this whole back injury and William Jackson being benched or whatever, I was definitely one of those people that was saying that William Jackson is getting thrown under the bus way too much, because when we are in man coverage, he's arguably our best corner. Benjamin St-Juste has been our most consistent, but nobody has the athleticism and speed combined with the length that William Jackson has to cover some of the receivers that we need to cover in the NFL. His main problem has been that he's been with people step for step, but then would just do like a random waist tug or a jersey tug, pulling somebody instead of just attacking the ball, and that's it. He'll do the first 95% of the play right, and then the last 5% do some dumb penalty for no reason. He was doing that quite a bit the last game we saw him play before he got benched in the Titans game. Kendall Fuller, on the other hand, when he gets beat, it's about like 3-5 yards, maybe even more than that sometimes. So I just felt like William Jackson was getting a little bit too much hate. Kendall Fuller is pretty good in zone, but he's not athletic. I've been saying if you can put Kendall Fuller's brain into William Jackson's body, you have a top 5 corner in the NFL. Because William Jackson, with the way this defense is set up, we try to run zone, we try to run a little bit of man, and we also try to run match coverage, which is the most difficult coverage to run mentally, and William Jackson has been the worst corner in our group at doing that, and since he's not versatile, it's just not going to work. But when we do run man coverage, I still believe William Jackson probably is our best man cover corner, as long as he's not committing penalties, because Benjamin St-Juste is even getting beat out here by like 3-5 yards on double moves at times. I love Benjamin St-Juste, but again, other teams just haven't been able to take advantage of it. I'm afraid that the Vikings and Eagles probably will be able to. Don't be surprised if our corners just suddenly look worse against the Eagles and the Vikings. I hope not, but it's not because necessarily that Benjamin St-Juste and Rashad Wildgoose and Kendall Fuller are playing worse against those teams. It's just that those teams are going to finally expose some of the bad coverage plays that those guys have had. You haven't really noticed because our defensive line has been getting pressure, and then the quarterbacks we've gone against or the receivers we've gone against, with the Packers dropping open passes. Sam Ehlinger is not a great quarterback that can take advantage of bad coverage, at least not enough. Justin Fields was not really good against us either. So I'm just saying, if suddenly it looks like we have holes in our secondary against the Eagles and Vikings, it's not because our secondary played worse. It's just because the other teams that we're finally going against are better at taking advantage of those holes, better than the 3 teams we've played against in previous games. 2 out of the 3 was quarterback, and then 1 out of 3 was receiver. And Aaron Rodgers also looked like his finger was bothering him more than people probably assumed before that game started, and probably more than he'll even admit. But again, it's just crazy that we signed William Jackson and then went and drafted Benjamin St-Juste in the 3rd round. Like, okay, we're about to really turn into this man cover corner team, and it just didn't work out. Jack Del Rio, I guess, tried it to a point that it was just like, man, this just ain't it. We got to switch it up. No defense in the NFL is purely running man coverage all the time. The Detroit Lions were running it the most out of any team in the NFL, and their defensive backs coach just got fired a couple of days ago. The art of man coverage is not necessarily dead, but it's just harder to do it with the way the rules are set up. It's literally set up for the offense to beat defense. A good quarterback and a good receiver are always going to beat a good corner. That's just literally how the NFL rules are set up. The offense gets the benefit of the doubt no matter what. The game is literally set up for corners to lose. That's why I call it the most difficult position in football. So you need corners that are versatile. And so that's why I can see they're ready to just go ahead and move on from William Jackson. Again, don't release him. That's worst case scenario. At that point, you might as well just keep him on the roster. With the dead caps he's going to take up, might as well just release him next year or something in the offseason maybe. But releasing him right now, I mean, unless there's just this really good player you're adding to the roster, I just don't see it. Please get rid of this man in somewhat of a trade before you release him. At least for like a 6th round pick or something. Because we're going to talk about his dead cap hit a little later. But again, his lack of versatility makes it difficult to be consistent with him. I mean, like I said, you might as well just let him be a man cover corner and follow the opposing team's best receiver. and then run whatever zone coverage, match coverage you want to run outside of that. Just let him be in man coverage every play. I know that's impossible. I know that's really difficult to do, but I mean, that was our only option with how he could literally only run man coverage. But again, he, to me, was our best man coverage corner. But again, the NFL is moving away from man coverage. So what can you do? And then if you just look at his stats, man, and before I read you these stats, remember he's the second highest paid player on the team. Number one is Carson Wentz. So right now, our top two highest paid players on the team are not playing NFL games right now. It's crazy. Haven't played for the past few weeks, and we've gone on a win streak. Even though Carson Wentz was there for the first game, even though he barely did anything. But this season, so far, before he got benched, he has a 70.8 completion percentage allowed and a 121.9 passer rating allowed. And then since he's been here, in the 16 games he's played, he only has 10 passes defended in the past 2 years and 2 interceptions. Even though that's kind of hard to measure because the second half of last year, along with just the entire team being better, he was way better. I mean, he was shutting down literally a third of the field. Quarterback stopped even looking his way at a certain point last season. I was hoping he could carry that momentum into this season because he was shutting stuff down last year. I don't know what the difference is between last year and this year because it seems like, if anything, our defensive line is better. Our safeties are better. Overall, Bobby McCain's playing better. Derek Forrest has stepped up big, and Cameron Curl is the highest graded safety in the NFL. And I'm going to do a whole video breaking down our secondary and how elite our defense has been at certain statistics and stuff like that. But it's just like, if William Jackson was literally shutting down a third of the field like we wanted him to do last year and literally just erasing the opponent's best receiver, I don't know why we haven't been able to figure that out this year. I feel like Jack Del Rio's actually done a great job with this defense this year, but is that on him? And like I said, I mean, honestly, the main reason that we've improved since William Jackson has been gone is that the secondary is on the same page. They're more consistent. They're able to be a little bit more versatile. But outside of that, William Jackson is definitely more talented than every corner we have on our roster right now. If we're just talking pure talent, I just feel like, even though, again, Jack Del Rio's done a great job so far this year, I feel like it's on Jack Del Rio to find a way to utilize that, man. And again, I'm just really, I know I keep saying it, but I'm really afraid of the Vikings and Eagles taking advantage of some of the coverage busts that we've had the past few weeks, that Sam Ehlinger, Aaron Rodgers with those terrible receivers and a hurt finger, and Justin Fields weren't able to take advantage of. We'll see though. Right now, our three safeties, Cameron Curl, Derek Forrest, and Bobby McCain, are really saving us right now. We'll see though. I'm really excited about Benjamin St. Juste. Kendall Fuller's been doing a pretty good job, and I'm really excited about Rashad Wildgoose and his future on this team. He's only going to get better and better. But man, I'm telling y'all, trying to warn y'all now. And just to go back to corner depth, man, I mean, again, that last play of the drive, we was running prevent defense against the Colts. We had 3 corners and 4 safeties. That pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Excluding William Jackson, outside of Kendall Fuller, Rashad Wildgoose, and Benjamin St. Juste, your 2 starting outside corners and then your slot corner, you have 7th round Christian Holmes, who's been primarily a special teams contributor. That's really the only reason he's been active on game days. And then we just promoted Danny Johnson from the practice squad. I mean, we really don't have any true honest cornerback depth. Danny Johnson, I liked what I saw from him as our starting slot corner last year, but in the preseason, he was out here getting cooked by backup Ravens receivers. So I don't know if Danny Johnson lost what he used to have, if he doesn't have it anymore, but I'm afraid to throw Danny Johnson out there. Christian Holmes is still pretty raw. He was out there getting beat as well. He wasn't getting beat as bad as Danny Johnson, but he was still getting beat against backup receivers from the Ravens. And the Ravens don't even have like this elite receiving core. So for you to get beat by Ravens receivers that didn't even make the team, and the current receivers that did make the team aren't even that great, that should just tell you all of the red flags that this cornerback depth has right now. We literally have none. I mean, we're lucky Rashad Wildgoose has played as well as he has. Again, he's made mistakes, so we still got to worry about him a little bit, and I'm very excited about his future. But, I mean, if Rashad Wildgoose wasn't at the very least as productive as he's been right now, we would have a huge hole in our secondary. He's made some really impressive plays, but again, he's also gotten beat sometimes. But Sam Ehlinger, Aaron Rodgers with those receivers, and Justin Fields have not been able to take advantage of it so far. And I'm just afraid of the fact that Kirk Cousins with Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson with Dalvin Cook out there probably can. And then don't get me started on the Eagles. In this William Jackson whole situation, this whole debacle just goes down a long list of just every time the Commanders try to sign a big name free agent, it doesn't work out. And I really feel like it's not that hard. There's just so many obvious free agents out there where it's like you pay them the big money, it should work. work. And William Jackson, again, I just feel like it doesn't work because he just doesn't fit what the scheme is trying to do, what Jack Del Rio's trying to do. I could easily see William Jackson going to another team and they're just asking him to run pure man all the time, just literally shadow and follow the opposing team's best receiver. And I can see him actually playing pretty well for that team. So this just, again, goes down a long laundry list of just a crazy history of this team signing guys to big contracts and it's not working out, led by Albert Haynesworth. That's like the leader. That's the almighty bad contract. But Josh Norman didn't work out, of course. He had his moments, but that didn't work out at all. And even like Curtis Samuel, he's worked out very well this year, but last year he barely played. It just seems like it never goes right with us. Now, I still want to stay aggressive because other teams are out here doing it. I mean, the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown and paid him big money, and look how that's worked out. We just need to be smarter with our money. I don't say be less aggressive. I'm definitely not saying be less aggressive. I know some people out here screaming, just stick with the lower signings like Cornelius Lucas, Charles Leno, J.D. McKissick, Logan Thomas, and even those haven't necessarily worked out perfectly. Wes Schweitzer, a lot of those guys, and they have worked out pretty well. We definitely have a higher success rate with those lower signings than we do these bigger ones, but I mean, teams are out here making big signings like we do left and right. They just make sure they get the right guy for their system. They make sure they use them right. They're doing everything right. I don't know what we're doing, but we're just not doing it the right way. So I don't think the solution is to stop being aggressive. I think the solution is to be smarter, but definitely stay aggressive because these aggressive teams are out here winning. The Eagles are the last undefeated team in the NFL, and they were very aggressive in acquiring talent. They went and got all kinds of big names. And now, granted, some of those guys took a little bit less money with the Eagles than they would another franchise because they saw that they were buying into a real winning a Super Bowl type of mentality. They could tell this team is like, man, maybe if you just add me to it, we're Super Bowl contenders type of thing. I'm the last missing piece, so I'd be willing to shave off a couple of $1 million to be a part of a potential Super Bowl winning team. So there is that element as well, of course, but how did we get here? How did we get to the point where people are looking at them like James Bradbury or Chauncey from the Saints is looking like, man, please trade me to the Eagles, because that team looks like they're trying to win, and I'm just trying to get out of my current situation. And they got there by, first of all, drafting well, which I feel like we haven't even necessarily done a terrible job at. We just had a couple of bad luck situations with injuries and things like that. Jahan Dotson, Fedarian Mathis have missed extended time. Brian Robinson, our very next pick, our third round pick, was shot in the offseason. Literally our top 3 picks have all missed significant football just for random, crazy, unfair situations that are not the Commanders' fault or the players' faults at all. And outside of that, I feel like we've drafted fairly well, even though I would be far more aggressive than the Commanders are in every single way, drafting and free agency. But on top of drafting well, going back to free agency, the Eagles have done everything they can to add talent. I mean, getting Hassan Reddick, all of the moves they've made, man, the rich just keep getting richer. And I just feel like we could do the same thing. But when we get aggressive, like how the Eagles have gotten aggressive, we just do it the wrong way. The Eagles do it in the right way. It's that simple. Again, don't get passive, get smarter. But going to William Jackson's contract, just to let you know, if we were to release him right now, he would be a $17 million dead cap hit right now, slightly over $17 million. And then so this year is kind of like whatever, dead cap, you don't really care. But even next year, if we were to release him this year, he would still hit us for $9 million against the cap, dead cap right now if we were to release him. So that's why I'm saying, man, you gotta find a way to trade him. You gotta find a way to trade him, even if it's just for a 6th round pick, to at least alleviate yourself of some of that dead cap, man. For him to be taking up $9 million worth of cap space not on the team next year, which is like a big year for us trying to re-sign Deron Payne. We got to start talking about Montez Sweat, Cole Holcomb, Cameron Curl, and that's not even including some of the free agents we may want to bring in from other teams. That $9 million can hurt. Now, granted, we're going to get quite a bit of cap space back with Carson Wentz more than likely, pretty much when we choose to just go ahead and release him. But still, man, that's ridiculous. Right now, if Washington releases William Jackson, we will carry $9 million of cap hit into 2023 and still owe him his salary for this year as well. But at the same time, one thing that can help us potentially trade him instead of releasing him before this trade deadline at 4 p.m. It's 11:55 a.m. right now, is that a team would only need $3.2 million worth of cap space to claim him. So if somebody were to claim him, I believe that a lot of that dead cap would come off of our books, which would save us. And again, a team would only really need $3.2 million worth of cap space to claim him, just with how all of that mathematics and contract stuff works out. A whole bunch of stipulations and little fine print type of things. So that may save us. It may be, hopefully, we're selling that to teams when we're on the phone right now. Hope Rivera and all of these guys, Martin Mayhew, on the phone right now and leading with that. And again, at least get a 6th round pick for him. There's no reason we should just have to release him and a team pick him up for free, because again, I can already see a team, especially like a championship contender like the Chiefs or something, picking him up and then him balling out. I can easily see that. And then lastly, before we get up out of here, again, with our cornerback situation right now, Benjamin St-Juste has a bright future. I believe Rashad Wildgoose may have a bright future in the slot. But I'm not even too sure about Kendall Fuller, because he's also one of the highest paid players on our team, making over $10 million a year. Would we release him next year? I mean, I doubt it, because right now you don't want to fix what's not broken, but it's a long season left. If Kendall Fuller just looks like a complete bum for some odd reason for the remainder of the season, it's quite likely that we release him, we cut him to save a lot of money for cap space. He's making over $10 million this year and next year. And then you're already planning on getting rid of William Jackson, so that would leave two kind of big holes on our cornerback group. Again, and Benjamin St-Juste is our starting outside corner, and Rashad Wildgoose is our starting slot corner. But it would still be nice to have another starting outside corner, potentially a number 1 corner opposite of Benjamin St-Juste. I prefer Benjamin St-Juste as a number 2 if possible. Ideally, he's a number 2 outside corner. And then you're still going to need cornerback depth. I mean, who knows if Christian Holmes develops by then. But I mean, right now, some people feel like Joey Porter from Penn State, 6'2", almost 6'3". Not the fastest guy, but arguably the best overall corner in this draft class. His change of direction, his fluidity, his length, he's just a crazy athlete. Now at 6'2", he's only 198 pounds. But you know, that's kind of typical of a corner anyway. But then you have Kelee Ringo in comparison, 6'2" as well, 210 pounds, over 10 pounds heavier than Joey Porter, and then yet way faster. People believe he runs a 4.35 compared to Joey Porter's believed to be 4.47 in a 40-yard dash. So Kelee Ringo is almost just as tall, basically just as long, 10 pounds heavier, but runs a 4.35 40-yard dash compared to Joey Porter's 4.47. But as a Georgia Bulldog fan, I'm gonna warn y'all now, Kelee Ringo is the ultimate built in a lab prospect as far as traits. But boy, he has some concentration moments where he can shut down the best receivers in the country and then go against a no-name receiver from a no-name school and get beat. He's just one of those guys that if he's not motivated, I mean, I'm just assuming. That's just what it seems like to me. Again, I watch every Georgia game in full, usually twice at least. Big time Georgia Bulldog fan. It's going to be really hard to find somebody out there that's an even bigger Georgia Bulldog fan than I am, honestly. But it's just something mentally. He takes too many risks. I mean, he has this really bad habit of jumping too early. He'll have perfect coverage on a guy with him step for step, and then jump too early, and then the ball sails slightly over his head, and then the receiver's wide open now for an easy catch. I don't know what it is. He has every positive trait you can ask for. If you want him to press man, he can cover tight ends. He can cover bigger slot receivers. He has the speed to cover running backs and small slot receivers. He's literally one of those guys that you can ask to cover the Darren Wallers. You can ask him to cover the DeAndre Swifts. You know how rare that is and how ridiculous of a talent that is. But again, he's got to work on a lot of things mentally before I'm comfortable with taking them high in the first round. Then you also have Malachi Moore from Alabama. You have Clark Phillips from Utah, Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M, Cam Smith from South Carolina. Eli Ricks from Alabama came into this season with high expectations, but he just hasn't necessarily delivered on it yet. But he's still very talented. With him transferring from LSU, I believe he was supposed to be another one of those top LSU corners coming out of the draft, but hasn't worked out just yet. You have Jalen Jones from Texas A&M as well. Garrett Williams from Syracuse. He's been playing very well. It's just a question of level of competition for him, but he's very talented. And then there's a lot of guys out there, but I would say honestly right now, my top two would be Joey Porter and Kelee Ringo. Kelee Ringo has all of the athletic traits. I mean, literally, if you were to build a guy in a lab, it would literally be him. Because with him being 210 pounds, he has no problem stopping the run. He literally has no weakness other than consistency. That's literally it. But if we're talking about ceiling, Kelee Ringo has the highest ceiling in this cornerback class easily, in my opinion. But again, Joey Porter right now is just safest bet to just come in and be your number one outside corner opposite of Benjamin St-Juste if you wanted to play it safe. But if you want to go with ceiling, which you know I love to do, Keely Ringo is your guy, man. But yeah, man, with this whole William Jackson situation, and again, Kendall Fuller, I'm not entirely too sure if he's safe as far as being on this team going into the 2023 regular season. So drafting corner is high on our to-do list right now. I think offensive line, maybe future quarterback, depending on how they feel with Sam Howell, and cornerback right now are our biggest needs, honestly. It would be nice to have some healthy tight ends out there as well, but right now our biggest needs are offensive line and corner, easily in my opinion. I mean, linebacker, I still feel like we've been applying bandages, and I love Jamin Davis, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Cole Holcomb, but as you can see, we're one Cole Holcomb injury away from John Bostic and David Mayo having to split up snaps at Mike linebacker, and there were even some snaps where we just said F it. Jamin Davis is the only linebacker on the field. We'll run 5 defensive linemen if we got to fix some things, but we're not running David Mayo and Jamin Davis out there together. At least we're going to try to avoid it as much as possible. So linebacker is still a need that we have as well. Offensive line, corner, and linebacker, and future quarterback if they don't believe in Sam Howell. If we don't get a chance to see what Sam Howell does this year, we'll see. But yeah, man, I'm going to actually go ahead and do a video breaking down our biggest needs right now. I may even do a mock draft if y'all want me to, so let me know. But that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it. Did you learn anything? How do you feel about this whole William Jackson situation? Who's your favorite corner in the draft and why? And of course, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.